Make it stop. Make the hurt stop, please. Like.
Quantic, run them bands up. Quantic, run them bands up. Hey yo, Quantic, run them bands up.
Galloway. Galloway.
Got in the cage with former UFC star turned podcaster Jake Shields to explore the Manosphere and why exactly it's so popular.
They speak liberal, they have liberal friends, and then they go online and they are a white supremacist.
This is Vera Papasova. She spent the last year dating far-right men in New York City for a story for Cosmopolitan magazine.
They're the most insecure men I've ever sat down with. It was really difficult to have some of these dates because they were so insecure, because they don't really know who they are and they don't know how to figure that out.
She said the men she dated got all their news and information from the so-called Manosphere.
They did not listen to anything else. They're only listening to independent media, and they're only listening to men talking to men.
We are only listening to men talking to men. This is why you are here. Shout out to the handful of ladies that listen. I guess you prefer to listen to men as well. I appreciate you girls coming as well. Hit the like button. We are going to kick this show right off. Conversation with CNN. Apparently, CNN sent an undercover thotty to date Manosphere men. And then she ran back to CNN to go tell them everything she found out about the red pill guys. Apparently, they're racist. That's the first thing she learned immediately. There's kind of racism in here. I have no comment on that. You know, it is what it is. Being red pill and right wing isn't for the weak and faint of heart. It will put some hair on your golf balls, though.
Manosphere is made up of macho podcasters and influencers.
There's no such thing as an independent female.
Most women have zero concept of like money.
Females don't have independent thought.
It's a space where UFC fighters are among those who reign supreme.
You know, that's an interesting comment. You know, Andrew Tate, he's good for that. And this is a comment, an idea. This is a commentary that pops up every so often in the manosphere kind of circles. Women are very group thinkish, and so when the men say that women don't really have individual thought, you know, just recently I was pondering the idea of inner monologue and that inner dialogue. And you know, there are people who say that they don't really have inner dialogue. And for me, that's like it's an impossible reality. And then it hit me like, I wonder if that's a thing with women more than men. Because what it seems like is a lot of women tend to latch on to ideas of others and operate based on some idea that was presented to them that makes them feel good. That's the key too, ideas that make them feel good. And there doesn't seem to be the same level of critical, rational idea triage that men may go through. I imagine men just do that more, but you know, there's a lot of dumb guys too, so who knows how they think. But generally speaking, I just wonder about that, and a lot of guys have kind of wondered about that as well, I guess. You know, do women really have inner monologue?
They love the UFC guys. They love the MMA guys because those guys do what they can. They're modern gladiators. They're badass.
Badass like Jake Shields, a former UFC star turned podcaster.
Sorry. Now I'm starting to feel nervous.
You know what? That is an interesting observation, Laughing Dog. She found the far right. She found all the far right guys in NYC. What is it? 10,001. Yeah, I mean, apparently she went to New York and she started dating the Punisher, bro. I don't know how she found all the right-wing guys in NYC, bro. Like, it's CNN. Do you really expect hard-hitting, on the ground, gaining some type of traction journalism? Like, no. They went to the bar and she talked to a buff guy with a beard and she called him right-wing. But I want to give a thank you to Carmen with the $9.99 super chat. She says, I like monetized hood. I feel like we get way more shows. Well, that is the plan. You know, now that you got your monetized shekelled hooks into me, I have to perform. You know, now I'm like the monkey in the little box now. You turn the crank and I got to do a little dance. And so I expect to be doing the dance as much as I can manage. Because, you know, I'm just a little monkey in the box. There's only so many times you can turn the crank. But I thank you, Carmen. I appreciate the $9.99 super chat. And then also I didn't notice this, I guess, yesterday, but I got a $20 Venmo because we do accept Venmo around here. Thank you so much for the $20 Venmo from my man, Marshall. Thank y'all so much for supporting the show. You know, this whole thing is listener supported. We are not monetized by the big names. You know, Conservative Inc. will probably never, ever, ever want to do business with me because I might say something Fuentes-ish, and then I'd be like, you know, what's up with this black guy? So that's why I love my people. Shout out to everybody who hit that like button. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. And be like Carmen, y'all. Smash that Cash App button. I mean, smash that Super Chat button.
Hulk! Smash! Smash you! You make Hulk angry. You not like Hulk angry. Hulk no like fighting girls.
Hey, Carmen, I don't really want to get too much more into it. It was just a random thought I had one day. I'm not gonna stake it out as one of my my branded theories or whatnot.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course.
Who I met at an MMA gym in Las Vegas.
Like all great MMA pros. I've never hit anyone in my life.
I'm not punching back. Hit me. No, I sit right here. KO.
This is CNN.
So CNN sent the girl out to date a red pill guy, and the first red pill guy she finds, he beats up a leprechaun. I'm not understanding what's going on here. Not that I wouldn't want to beat up a leprechaun just, just for the bucket list of it, but still, like, what's going on here? Are you are you trying to date Jake Shields? Why is the leprechaun getting beat up by Jake Shields? I thought the blonde girl was going on a date. I'm really out of it. I'm really confused. Bear with me. Don't mind me. I'm having a hard time. I don't always understand white people culture.
Now I'm starting to feel nervous. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course.
Who I met at an MMA gym in Las Vegas.
Like all great MMA pros. I've never hit anyone in my life.
I'm not punching back. Hit me. No, I sit right here. KO.
This is CNN. Do you miss being full-time pro? Like in terms of
Of course I miss it. To go from professional athlete, which is the highest of highs, to retirement.
I guess the
podcast has helped. You could fall into depression if you just go from the most amazing career where you're famous and spotlights to all of a sudden you're a nobody.
Sure.
Like other podcasters in the Manosphere, Jake regularly hosts controversial guests.
And I named the podcast Fighting Back. I feel like we have to fight back what we're told we're allowed to do. I just don't like to be told you're not allowed to talk to this person. Like,
bro really got the cauliflower ears. That is terrible. Why'd they pick this guy though? Like, because I can't imagine she just like left the CNN office building or wherever in New York, and then she went down to like an Irish pub and just started chatting up a guy. Like, how they wind up with Jake Shields?
Why can't I talk to him? I'm not saying I agree with his ideology, but I should hear what he has to say.
He's hosted the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Today I have a very, very special guest, Dr. David Duke. I know you're controversial.
Like, if you really wanted to get a wide shot of the Manosphere, you picked a really controversial guy. I mean, and to be fair, if you're gonna figure out what it is about the Manosphere men, the first thing that you learn about him is he beats up leprechauns and he talks to like right-wing figures. He talks to David Duke. I feel like you're trying to make the Manosphere look crazy. Hey, shout out to Free Zone with the $10 super chat. To where Fuentevian Summer. I have no idea what that could possibly mean. But I kind of look forward to it. A Fuentevian Summer. Shout out to Free Zone Lou. Smash that super chat button for me, y'all.
Hulk! Smash! Smash you! You make Hulk angry! You not like Hulk angry! Hulk no like fighting girls.
And literally shaking, he says, Jake Shields is based. You should try and do a collab with him. He's approachable. Yeah, I got no criticism of Shields. I kind of loosely know who he is just from Twitter or whatever, from X. But I'm not really even focusing on him so much as the media lens that we're being fed right now. Like, the Manosphere isn't really the I want to talk to the leader of the KKK movement. It's not, there are guys in there who would do that. That's like a little tiny corner of a pocket in the Manosphere. But to kind of just put this one as like the number one thing about him is kind of crazy.
I had no idea how controversial.
And Thomas Russo, the leader of the white supremacist group Patriot Front.
Let's go where we disagree a little bit.
Yes, sure.
Let's hit race, because you're a white only group?
So the organization only allows people of American ethnicity.
Hey, SKC, I'm not gonna get dragged all the way off my lane here, but please, you have to share this. You know I need to hear this because I am dying to blow this thing up just for the fun of it. Just to, dig at some old wounds, you know what I mean? I've always got my ear to that one particular street.
And all Americans, I believe, come from Europe, so they're white.
The true heirs of the American spirit fight on! Yeah, no, I understand and talk to these guys, but I've also not brought anyone hateful. If I do, I'm going to be really on top of them.
But so you saying that you haven't brought someone hateful on, right? People say, well, you brought on the Grand Wizard of the KKK, you brought on Patriot Front.
Yeah.
They're not hateful. They're just angry. Anger isn't hatred. Anger need not be hatred. Anger is often righteous. I mean, your hatred may even be righteous at times, but anger and hatred aren't the same. Just because they're angry about a thing doesn't mean they're hateful about people.
Hateful? No, I think those are excellent questions, but people go and watch the actual interviews, I think they would be like, oh, this guy's not near as hateful as if I expect it.
But Vera says hate isn't what the men she dated were really looking for.
One of these guys brought me to a political meeting.
And did they talk about politics?
Barely. They talked about, it was a bunch of men complaining about girlfriends and wives.
She is an icy platinum blonde. I bet you're the kind of woman that those guys complain about at that political meeting. And I'm pretty sure it was the female side of the gender war that introduced the concept of the personal is political. Women brought the gender war right into the bedroom. And so it makes perfect sense that when you get, especially in the modern day, in 2020, whatever, like if you get a bunch of guys together to talk about politics, it wouldn't take all that long for personal tangential issues involving women start to come up. Because here's the issue really, and this is why it's almost inescapable. Men's number one political opponent technically is women. And that's a bitter pill. That is a tough thing, right? But generally speaking, the things that men value differ greatly from the things that women value. And women women seem to be unwilling to sacrifice their political will for the things that men value. And frankly, a lot of what the men in the Manosphere spaces value are direct threats to the female power base because men resent the growing level of female social and political power. David Older King with the $2 super chat calls me the church malservative. Hey man, we ain't never been quiet over here. I don't know what they talking about.
It's Uncle Remus spinning his warm, funny stories.
Like, the Manosphere been hijacked by fucking entertainers, conservative entertainers, by the way.
Regurgitating Andrew Tate type of advice about how to train your girlfriend, how to train your wife to be submissive. And so this group was supposed to be a political group, but they're talking about relationship problems. And the fact that that's...
Well, if no one else is training women how to be submissive, that means you got to train her when you get her. You can't depend on her to just know, like, oh, well, you're going to do this and you understand that. Like, who was going to teach you these things? Your single mom? How are you supposed to know these things? I don't get where that was supposed to actually come from. But whatever. Apparently, it's wrong to teach your woman things that her mom never bothered to teach her. That's bad. Boys, do not train your woman. That would be bad.
That's what most of the time was spent on. You don't need to be a neo-Nazi. You need therapy.
The appeal of Jake's podcast speaks to a need among young men in this country that Vera says can't be ignored.
You have to incentivize someone to want to be better. You can't just say, let's make men better. The thing about these guys is their biggest support system is online, but that also is very isolating, and isolation is what breeds hatred.
Groups like Patriot Front offer community.
Why do they insist on making the Manosphere's main focus racial hatred? I was really expecting to hear more about misogyny. I was expecting to hear more about how, you know, we want to take women's rights away, but you keep bringing up these like angry white people. That's not really what we're about over here. I mean, every now and then we have like race day, but you know, it's not what you think it is.
A community based on racism and hate.
People have to really think about, do you have the capacity to talk to people that you don't agree with? Because that one nice conversation you might have might change someone's day enough to not have to seek out help in an online support group, which is actually a bunch of white supremacists using political beliefs as an excuse for how they feel.
Tony O'Sullivan.
So it's not even about the women anymore. It's actually about racism. It's a clever gambit, actually. I respect the game. It's a solid chess move you just made there. Gonna totally sidestep all the feminism criticism. No, you're just a racist. This is a cold game. This is a cold game. You gotta love it, though. You gotta love it.
Is here with us now. Donnie, I'm so glad you've done this.
They got the leprechaun in the headquarters now. He is in studio.
Special. There's so much intrigue around this issue of the Manosphere. And in fact, Trump is going to the UFC tonight. How big of a role does the sport play in the Manosphere?
Hey, Isabel. Yeah, and look.
Hey, shout out to Big Time with the $5 super chat. How do you ask a woman how to be a man? Isn't that the definition of stupidity? It kind of sounds like that. And not only that, you kind of remind me of the clip we're going to get to next. Scott Galloway was over on The View talking about men because, you know, everybody hates men lately. We're popular. And I noticed, anyway, I'm not even going to give it away, but Scott Galloway might be kind of retarded, actually. I hate to say it like that, but because I'm not a medical professional, who am I to make that kind of declaration? But I think something's wrong with him.
We should point out at the start here, there's tons of guys who are fans, and some women as well, who are fans of the UFC. I have many friends who are fans of the UFC. It certainly does not mean, you know, that if you are a fan of the UFC, you are falling sort of down this rabbit hole of hate and white supremacy. And
so let me just get this straight. Let's just kind of package this up real nicely, right? So guys who work out, they beat up midgets, and they're racist. That's the Manosphere.
Everything else. But what we are seeing is that there is this sort of, there is this crossover. The UFC is playing a greater and bigger role really in American life. Joe Rogan, who's the world's biggest podcaster, is a UFC commentator. Dana White, who is the founder of the UFC, is a prominent Trump supporter and was recently appointed to the board of Meta by Mark Zuckerberg himself, another big MMA and UFC fan. And actually fighting tonight in Miami, Trump is going to the event. We're not sure if he'll be there for the earlier fights, but fighting tonight in Miami at the UFC event is a fighter by the name of Bryce Mitchell, who recently set up a podcast of his own. And on his debut episode a few months ago, he said that Hitler was a quote-unquote good guy or a great guy.
It was only a matter of time before they dragged Uncle H into it. Why you got to keep going back to the H guy? All roads lead to H. I remember I called this earlier. I spoke at length about this a while ago. He's one of the pillars of the liberal moral world order. MLK is Black Jesus for white people. and Uncle H is the devil. And the two of them, they comprise the heaven and hell of this liberal new religion that we're all kind of low-key worshiping under.
Dana White, the head of the UFC, was quick to condemn that, but you can just kind of see there where folks who might be coming into this sport for one reason are a fan of fighting, and then they're getting exposed to views like Bryce Mitchell's.
Saint Nick 69 with the $5 super chat. He says these white guys are now bitter because free, white, and 21 doesn't apply anymore. The world their dads, granddads, and further back knew is gone. Yeah. The past is a foreign country. The past is an alien planet for all of us, and why should they be happy at the loss of that? Why should they be happy that the world that their fathers and grandfathers essentially built is fading around them? It's not a thing that you would be happy about. It's a thing that might cause you a little bit of a consternation, might keep you up at night if you care to think about that kind of thing. And a lot of guys do. This is how you get that whole neo-European, how many times a week, how many times a day do you think about the Roman Empire kind of culture on the internet? But I want to jump to something else real quick before you leave this particular topic, because I noticed that this particular video caught a few people's attention, and I want to hear the liberal view on what CNN just put out about the Manosphere. So this is some girl from the Minority Report, the girl who works with Sam Cedar. I don't really know her name, as if I really care.
But I mean, great reporting on her front, and she did a piece on it as well. But this is what we come back to all the time about some of these groups and why young men are trending more misogynistically, at least in this current moment, or reactionary or right wing. And you can usually, those groups are always going to exist, right? But in times of abundance, no, not really, in times of better economic and
why is peak liberalism producing a stark, pronounced right-wing backlash? People don't love liberalism? What's going on here?
Baseline economic conditions, and when baseline needs are met, when there's more upward mobility, when there's hope about the future, you're less likely to have these reactionary groups gain in prominence, because there is a sense of purpose that is found outside of insular and often hateful communities. And part of what, honestly, I think I missed in the lead up to this election was these insular communities that I don't understand, of the Manosphere or these online far-right influencer spaces, because they are definitionally insular.
You didn't miss the Manosphere because the Manosphere is insular. It's not like most guys don't have some secret listeners only club where you have to like dial in and enter a passcode just to listen to the live stream. It's not like that. Frankly, I would argue the Manosphere is more open to the public than a lot of liberal left-wing groups. Like, try to meet up with some kind of left-wing action group. Try to get into an Antifa group. The Manosphere is on YouTube for everybody. It's for the world, Craig.
And it creates antisocial behavior, but it also gives people at least some sort of temporary release to the alienation that people are feeling, exacerbated during COVID, but really exacerbated as income and wealth inequality continues to worsen. And we've had multiple recessions, we've had multiple economic crises. And what is the result of that? What was the result of the Great Recession in 2008? More transfer of wealth to the top. What was the result of COVID and the economic?
In 2008, all of the liberal, hippie, blue-haired people, they were protesting the banks. Now they kind of low-key get paid by the banks through a series of shell companies and all that. But now you kind of been co-opted by the beast you say you hate.
Economic crisis. Well, there was naturally occurring inflation, but then greedflation, where corporations took advantage and got richer after that. And like during that process of social alienation and of lack of upward mobility, is it shocking that men go to these spaces? And there's more speculation too with finances, whether it's crypto, whether it's gambling, credit card debt for men in states where gambling is legal. I keep saying this, it's just through the roof. This is the stew for reactionary sentiment like this.
Yeah, look at what debt does to overall societal outcomes. It doesn't make everyone happier and more so.
And I notice how everybody wants to blame anything but women. Men are mad because of racism. There's all these Mexicans and Indians over here. Men are mad because they're broke. They ain't got no money. There's Mexicans and Indians took your job. Like, yeah, those things may be true. There's a conversation to be had about that. But nobody wants to talk about the women. Maybe the men are just really upset with women. Maybe women are really driving men crazy. You ever been in a situation with a woman where she just make you do things? Well, not make you, but you just do things that you wouldn't normally do because you've been driven so out of your zone. We're in that moment, like socio-politically right now. Feels kind of nice though.
Social, and the thing is like these, they are symptoms of a society that is for the material reasons, like the cost of housing or whatever, or even like technological reasons, which are not unrelated. But we have a society that can filter you into these sorts of communities and out of your actual community. And the thing is with like Andrew Tate and these guys is it's like going to Andrew Tate for advice about women is like going to Ronald McDonald for advice about food, or like someone who's afraid of needles for.
It's really true what they say, the left can't meme. But frankly, I think it's from a fundamental unwillingness to engage. And so like Tate would not be seen as, the McDonald's of women. And even if he were, what guy wouldn't want to be like Ronald McDonald? Like not the clown, but the guy. What's the guy's name? Dave something? Whoever started McDonald's, like who wouldn't want to be the guy that like starts this whole empire? It's a weird thing. The left doesn't really understand men. There's no true attempt to understand men, except for when they want to criticize men. The only things that they really try to understand about men are for the purpose of criticizing and denigrating them. So they take all the qualities that would otherwise be noble and powerful and something to aspire to, and they wind up tearing them down because the noble aspirational qualities of men are actually the thing that would threaten the leftist moral world order the most. And so you got to reject and suppress all these ideas.
Advice about medicine. Andrew Tate literally told Hassan that he thinks women are statistically worse drivers because of his experience getting in crashes with them.
Women are statistically worse drivers. Ask any car insurance company.
Which to me it seems like you have some kind of post-traumatic stress, in addition to like all other pathologies that are going around as he's like shirtlessly puffing on cigars. Nobody that goes there, no young men that go there are getting any more adept at talking to women. what they are doing is sort of reinforcing, and I mean, I've said this before, picking the scab that the antisocial sort of society has put on them and making it just bigger and bigger, more of a scar. So then when you eventually get out there into the dating world, you have these expectations that are ridiculous.
Right.
You don't.
Right. The expectations that men have had since forever, and that frankly men around the world still get. Like, this is why you have the passport bro movement and all that. Apparently you don't sound so crazy when you get away from these women and these people.
Don't understand what actually being a man is, because you've taken your lessons from people who, like you say, speculate, or worse, do sex trafficking, like webcam girls like Andrew Tate, and that's the model of being a man.
Yeah,
of course they're fucked.
Yep. Zoe Hugh in Dissent magazine last year reviewed Clown World. We had those authors on who did the deep dive into Andrew Tate's Manosphere, and I'd encourage everyone to check out that book and their work, and also our interview on that front. But I really liked what she said in her review, and I think she just had a lot of good words here. I'm going to read a part of that. Because Tate and his followers are so violent, and because they are so stupid, one is tempted to liken their misogyny to a caveman's reflex.
Violent and stupid. I ain't even gonna lie. I've been violent and stupid at times, It's a thing guys get into. We are what we are.
A primal lavishness. This would be inaccurate. The Tate ethos is a wholly modern one, for it magnetizes sexual violence toward the absolute aim of economic exploitation. Under Tate's program, women are transformed into gig workers and subjected to an imperial profit motive. At the same time, their bodies are open to sexual and physical torture. They are instruments of financial valorization and also.
We really stop. We should really have a more public conversation about the dark side of female sexual pathology, because a lot of women won't necessarily want to engage in this conversation, but it's also been documented that a lot of women have violent sexual fantasies themselves, where they are the victim in some degree. They are being aggressed upon. The very concept of Beauty and the Beast. Why is that a thing that women can identify with? I don't really know if it's a thing in the man world. Like, generally speaking, it's not viewed as healthy sexual male desire to want to have sex with the beast. But in female world, there is that weird dark strain of, this primal caveman, as she just called us, right? Violent cavemen. There are women who actually wouldn't mind a little violent caveman action. But God forbid you be a violent caveman and they want to write books about you. They want to call the police on you.
Mute objects for male pleasure and domination. They are both the means and the ends, and the man who presides over them can have his enjoyment both ways, directly through rape or indirectly through money. This doubled harm is not inherent to sex work. The same principle motivates the factory foreman who docks the pay of his female workers before assaulting them in the back room, or the likes of Harvey Weinstein, for whom becoming a powerful producer.
Tate is not a Weinstein. And I don't even know if Weinstein is a Weinstein. I mean, look. Everybody understands why there is a casting couch in the Hollywood director's office, right? You don't really think he sleeps in the office when it really gets too late, right? No. The couch is for you, sweetie. I'm just saying, like, again, we never really want to engage with female agency. Like, What if she was willing to trade a little bit of time for work, right? What if she was willing to give up some of her time now so she could work for him later? But no. It's not real work, apparently. It's only real work when you get to say it's real work. But then when Weinstein's a part of the deal, it's not real work anymore.
Producer involved becoming a sexual predator. Man here is at his ideal form when he is a boss and rapist, when a woman cannot show him in public or private that she is a real person. Patriarchy teaches men to approach women as sex objects. Capitalism teaches us that the objects surrounding us are inert and barren of any human origin.
Actually, observation teaches men to approach women as sex objects. Women won't necessarily explain that to you, but observation helps. If you just pay attention, you'll understand. It's more of a behavior than a series of romantic charitable acts. No. It's a little bit of a raw behavior thing.
Tate stalks the tectonic ridge where these underlying worldviews meet. If everyone is a potential possession, sexual sadism is not an irrational outburst, but a supplement to or workplace perk of business mastery. People can be made to obey edicts and whims because they are not people at all. This fantasy of treating others like so many movable parts motorizes many of the reactionary beliefs whirring inside Tate's internet, which promotes the most gimmicky and antisocial of sales techniques. She also talks about how Tate is so.
That is a great question, St. Nick's. What about the women who chase wealthy, powerful men as success objects? Not only success objects, right? But if you trap a man for a baby, like these basketball players get trapped, right? Doesn't the man become a sex object in and of itself, right? Because it's not just the money. You are trapping him sexually, right? He becomes an object of your sexual desires and your sexual scheming now. And so I do kind of resent the argument that only men see women as sex objects. Women see men as sex objects, and even more. Men are objects. Men are ATMs. Men are just giant inflatable, not even inflatable, that's the wrong word. We're basically living dildos as far as most women are concerned. Like, we're talking about inner monologue and inner dialogue earlier. As far as women are concerned, men don't have inner dialogue, which means they don't see men as having real feelings. Only women have feelings. Only she has feelings. And so almost by default, it's truly the men who are objects in the way the world actually works, right? Women are only sex objects. Men are objects in every other capacity, though. True Hype with the $5 super chat. This chick is an example of bad faith. Notice how they have to make Tate the face so then they can attack a decentralized, loose group of ideals. I mean, that's the game, though. That's the game. Want to make everybody look bad because Ho's mad. That is exactly how it works.
Ho's mad. Ho's mad. Ho's mad. Ho's mad. Ho's mad. Ho's mad.
This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology.
Time has expired.
My life was threatened. Thank you.
Ho's mad. Ho's mad. Ho's mad. Ho's mad. Ho's mad. Ho's mad. Ho's mad.
Associates with pickup artists, which is basically get rich quick schemes for taking over women's bodies. He melds those things, and that's what
she really said, taking over women's bodies. Like we're the pod people. Like it's invasion of the body snatchers. Like once I penetrate through your vaginal cavity, it's a straight path into your cerebral cortex, and now you're mine forever. What do you think's going on here?
Tate, I guess, sales pitch was for his audience, which is that basically if you take my courses, you're going to be able to trick women into becoming your sex worker slaves.
Where PBD and his.
I am a firm believer that men rarely trick women. Women trick themselves because women want to believe. And the easiest thing for men to do is encourage belief. But I don't know that men flat out trick women. Like there's a pile of money underneath the net, and he just springs the net on her like, gotcha. Like I don't think it's like that. No, men rarely trick women. Women trick men all the time, though. Women literally go out into the world with camouflage on.
His like sort of insurance sales funnel, MLM sort of thing. It preys on people who want to make a buck. The sort of what is it? Pickup artist, male sort of influencer. Come with me to Vegas, and I'll show you how to talk to women. Thing
right?
Preys on men who want to get have sex.
Yep. And this is another great part of it. This review. Some have suggested that young men are drawn to Tate because they suffer from a loneliness epidemic. For what it's worth, Tate believes this too, having derided women in his videos for not understanding the interpersonal isolation that men experience. Yet it should be said that men go to Tate not to alleviate loneliness, but to intensify it, making it synonymous with power. They accept the premise that life pits the strong against the weak, that social antagonism is a universal condition. They forego mutual recognition or vulnerability within their relationships, which instead are stacked in the range for maximum value and extractive potential.
You know what happens when you express your vulnerabilities inside your relationship? You get kicked right in your vulnerables. Every time. All the time.
It is lonely at the top. It is lonely everywhere else. So that's part of, I think, that other piece where if you like, it sells loneliness and social isolation as a virtue, and that the only connection you should be making with women is one of economic exploitation, and where you don't need to worry about being rejected because you are the employer in this dynamic. You are the control.
Dirty. They are, loosely speaking, criticizing the Marry Your Secretary course, Dirty. If you read between the lines, she won't give you credit because, she's too big for that. But they are low-key criticizing the very idea of a Marry Your Secretary course, right? Which is on its face a great concept, right? Because, most women, especially like in that close kind of secretary-manager relationship, a lot of women imagine, having their way with their boss, right? And as a man, as her husband, you want to be seen as the boss that she looks up to. Like, I got to please this crazy motherfucker so I can get something going in my life. Marry your secretary, but here, it's a terrible idea. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to want things for yourself.
And that the only connection you should be making with women is one of economic exploitation, and where you don't need to worry about being rejected because you are the employer in this dynamic. You are the control. You have control. And that's something that's psychologically tantalizing when many people in our society feel out of control for the systemic reasons we try to talk about every day.
And there's two, I guess, to get even a bit philosophical, there's two ways to approach love. Is it a ownership relationship, or is it a labor of love?
I'm going to pick ownership. If I can't own you a little bit, I don't want to love you at all. If I can't own you a little bit, it's dangerous to love you at all. It's dangerous to me. It might even be dangerous to you. You never know just how crazy I might get. If I can't own you a little bit, then what are we even doing here? Might as well just leave some money on the nightstand.
And some people think of it as an ownership relationship. And that's, probably that I think can seem superficially empowering to young men who don't know what it's like to be in a relationship. And, the solution is, as Kendrick Lamar said, turn the TV off.
Mike from Bavaria, Tate is a drug dealer. He is selling male rage and anger. Solving the issues would mean you stop buying from him. Exactly. It's a snake oil salesman situation. In the same, they give you all these rules. I mean, less honestly, even problematic manosphere influencers than Tate will give you all these rules to pick up women. But even those rules in and of themselves are isolating actions that create strict gender norms that are so rigid that they don't account for actual human connection or engender that. And then you create these boundaries, you create these rules for how to interact with women. It alienates their humanity from.
Oh, nobody worried about your humanity. Every time I turn around, there's somebody worrying about some chick's alleged humanity. Oh, shut up about her humanity.
They have rights!
They have rights! So fucking what, man? Every time I turn around. You know what I really get about what I enjoy about this conversation that the whole left wing is struggling with right now? Because of the nature of left-wing ideology and their vision of the world and how they perceive things to be or should be, they are fundamentally incapable of solving the male problem, because all they really know is coercion or naked force, right? Which is just force with a glove on it. But I mean, coercion is just force with a glove on it, but then there's naked force, right? And that's how the left truly operates. And the more they coerce or try to force men to be this perfect asexual modern neo metro man, the more men will just naturally resist, because it's not just like you're offering me a bad deal. You're offering me something that I hate to my core, something that I didn't even know it until I found myself in this moment, but it's actually worth fighting you over.
From who women are. They're human beings just like the men in these instances. And then it doesn't work because women don't feel seen by the guys listening to the Manosphere. And what do they do? They go back and maybe upgrade their subscription and pay a little bit more for more snake oil. It's extremely exploitative.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check.
Hey, don't forget, we actually have a membership program over here now, too. You can get your monthly dose of snake oil. Don't forget to join the membership club. We are building a church of misogyny over here. We got a handful of members in the church. We got enough people to fill up like one little pew. We got one pew worth of members in the church. But don't forget, we actually have memberships open over on this channel as well. Thank you guys so much for joining the show. We are going to jump over now to the other bit of content I wanted to review. Scott Galloway paid a visit to the ladies from The View yesterday. And at a certain point, apparently he has a book, Notes on Being a Man. Scott wrote a book about being a man, because Scott's a man, apparently. I hadn't really noticed that looking at him, but Scott's apparently a man. And he wrote a book, and he was talking to the ladies at The View about what's wrong with men today. And let's listen. I think Scott's he doesn't quite understand what the problem is. But anyway, we'll get to Scott.
Scott, you've been ringing the alarm for years now on the crisis afflicting young men in this country. It's a topic that's come to the forefront lately. We talk of toxic masculinity, but also the massive success of shows like Adolescence, which I was chatting with you before. And Governors Westmore and Gretchen Whitmer recently announced plans to focus on helping boys and men in their states. You're currently writing a book on the subject called Notes on Being a Man. Do you feel that we've reached a tipping point? Because although you've been saying this for a long time, it feels like people are catching on now.
I think we're moving to a more productive. People do recognize there's an issue, right? 4 times more likely to kill themselves, 3 times more likely to be addicted, 12 times more likely to be incarcerated. I think mostly led by mothers who see something's going on. We've now turned to a more productive part of the conversation. Is what do we do about it? And I wrote this book because I do think that everybody needs a code to help them, guide them through the millions of decisions they have to make
Every man's got to have a code, right? Now, when a man tells me like he understands that men are supposed to have a code, I expect a level of consistency to a code, right? A code can't be, circular logic. A code can't be vague and hazy on the details. It can't have contradicting rules and procedures. And so I'm hoping Scott gives us some good solid logic with this code here. And shout out to the Midwest request. You giving away gifts in the chat. Are you buying the ladies gifts in the chat? Look at the Midwest request. Gifting a membership. Carmen has been gifted into the church, y'all. Move over, scooch over for Carmen. We almost got enough people to fill out this one pew now. We might have to get another pew. We get a couple more people in this church. I'm going to start doing exclusive members-only content. I'm going to have to give y'all an exclusive members-only live stream. Drop a couple of videos that members-only access. Maybe you get a couple of days early access to. I'm going to have to start rewarding my church. Got to start putting money into the collection plate myself. But anyway, back to this code. Shout out to the Midwest request. Shout out to Carmen. I hope you like it in there.
Around personal and professional activity. You can get it from your religion, your family, from the military, from work. I think we can get, for young men, I like the idea of restoring an aspirational vision of masculinity that can serve as a code. And I don't think there's anything wrong with leaning into your femininity or your masculinity if it feels natural.
Oh, God, see. So he just said it was a code, right? He said it was a code. Apparently, you can be a man with a woman code or a man with a man code. I think Scott's book is going to be trash, but all right, never mind. I don't want to judge early, but his code sounds a little bit confusing already.
For young men, I like the idea of restoring an aspirational vision of masculinity that can serve as a code. And I don't think there's anything wrong with leaning into your femininity or your masculinity if it feels natural. And for me, masculinity is, and I'm open to criticism here. This is a tough one that triggers a lot of people. But I think the three pillars are provider. I think every man at the outset of his career should assume that he needs to take economic responsibility for his household. And by the way, sometimes,
or at least for himself.
And sometimes that means getting out of the way of your partner who happens to be better at that money thing and taking up the slack in other parts of the household. But
Again, contradictory codes. First, you can be a man who's masculine or you can be a man who's feminine. Either one is good, right? Those are contradictory codes. Now you say you got to be, you got to take responsibility of your household, or you can let her make the money. Whatever works for you.
And by the way, sometimes,
or at least for himself,
the three pillars are provider. I think every man at the outset of his career should assume that he needs to take economic responsibility for his household. And by the way, sometimes,
or at least for himself.
And sometimes that means getting out of the way of your partner who happens to be better at that money thing and taking up the slack in other parts of the household.
But not being mad about it.
And
being a man means being a good homemaker when your wife has a good job. I mean, Scott, I'm just not getting the code. I'm having a hard time figuring it out.
Supportive.
Yeah.
My partner, when we had kids, was working at Goldman, making more money than me, so I tried to step up. That's also being a man. Two, and this triggers people, being a procreator. I think wanting to mate, that fire of desire can be.
Well, when you say I tried to step up, what does that actually mean? These are vagaries. These are words that don't actually convey real meaning. Is your whole book like this? Is it just a bunch of words that don't actually convey real meaning? Like step 1, figure out what you want to do in life. Step 2, focus on your goals in life. Step 3, organize a plan about approaching these goals in life. Like, is it just a bunch of vagaries that don't ever get to the point?
Be channeled, if it's channeled in the right ways, to making you a better man. Making you kinder, making you stronger. For God's sakes, thinking about how you dress, showering for God's sakes. Being persistent, initiating contact. The scariest stat I have read is that 51% of men age 18 to 24 have never asked a woman out in person.
Don't be persistent with the women. It's not a good look. It's not. It never looks to you the way it looks to them. All right. I'm just telling you, don't do the persistent thing. Either she's going or she's not. You get one, maybe two good cracks at it. At the third time, you might find yourself in the office. Now you got to explain why you keep trying to chat this girl up. She's just trying to do her job. And you see, Scott is not giving you good ideas to like survive the modern environment. Be persistent. Yeah. Explain that to your lawyers. Scott told me to be persistent.
And surveys show, distinct to what the media tells you, the majority of women still want men to initiate romantic contact.
Who cares what the majority of women want? What about what the majority of men want? All right. And I don't want to get jammed up because I was being persistent. Shout out to True Hype with the $5 super chat. Them, don't judge a book by its cover. Me, what if I judge a book by the dummy who wrote it? Had a ghostwriter actually pen it. Listen, man. When we watch this, when we review liberal content, you should always go into it with a suspicious mind, because they do not mean you well as a modern heterosexual American man. They do not have any good intention for you.
Aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help Black people.
Always got to be on the lookout, man. Shout out to True Hype with the $5 super chat. And then I think we just got a new church member. Shout out to my man Webster joining the church. This church is growing. I'm going to have to go get me like a robe or something. Make this a proper church.
Oh, yeah.
What happened to your sheriff?
There's powerful niggardry at work here.
It's Uncle Remus, spinning his warm, funny stories.
What Black women are doing, I don't care. They're their own group. When they decide to work with us, they will. Otherwise, they won't. And they don't have to. They have their own power, their own productivity. They don't need us for anything. And I'm okay with that.
The key to happiness is to eliminate all Black women from your life. I mean, look at me. No Black women in my life. Look how happy I am. I'm happy as a nigga with a new gun.
Now, Ruckus, that is preposterous.
Get it again. Okay, I'm going to say it again. I come in the name of Jesus. Repeat it after me, bitch. I come in the name of Jesus by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Shout out to all the church members out there. Hey, Webster, are you wrenched up anyway? You should have a wrench. Make sure you got a wrench in there. I gotta make sure Webster's wrenched up. Oh, I got you. Stand by, Webster. You got to get wrenched up. You can't be in a church without a wrench. How does that look?
While making them feel safe. Yeah. Third pillar, you're a protector, right? Your default operating system is you protect. If you think about the most masculine jobs, cop, fireman, military, what do they do at the end of the day? They protect. Your default should always be protection.
I must protect. Feels like I'm a slave with a dick and a gun. It's not really what I had, pictured for my life, but, all men must serve, right? Valardo slavist, right? All men must slave. Is that how it is? All men must slave. There's just no other way around it. All right, we got you wrenched up. There you go, my boy. We are in the church officially. Welcome to the church, my bro.
Right? It breaks my heart. And then in New York, if you talk to women, a lot of them say they don't feel safe on the subway. Or if they see men walking down the street, they cross the sidewalk. From an early age, we gotta teach our boys that the transition to manhood means your default operating system is protection. And it's not just physical. It's if you hear people criticizing others behind their back, your default is to weigh in and defend. You may not agree with the transgender community. You may.
All right, wait. First off, before we even get to the T thing, why you want me to be like a nosy busybody? So I'm supposed to just poke my nose in every time I hear somebody bad-mouthing somebody else. You want me to just step in and, hey, don't you talk about Mr. Jenkins like that. Mr. Jenkins, good white folks. Like, what do you want me to just get in there and just poke my nose into all these other people's problems? Does it matter if I even know these people? You want me to go around being like some super, a social justice warrior? That's literally what he wants me to be. He wants me to go to war socially for issues of justice. Why he wants, and this is his vision of men. To be a good man, you must be a social justice warrior. And you see, they try to trick you by throwing warrior in there. You're just gonna be like the homosexual Conan. It's not the warrior you want to be. Gonna be a butt pirate.
Boys, that the transition to manhood means your default operating system is protection. And it's not just physical. It's if you hear people criticizing others behind their back, your default is to weigh in and defend. You may not agree with the transgender community. You may not agree that corporations need to have a third bathroom. You may not believe in gender.
Why would you need a third bathroom? Why? Forgive me, I'm struggling. You know, sometimes when I can't think, I stutter. I gotta slow my brain down a little bit. I'm having a moment here. This I don't know what happened here. The third bathroom. I don't know if we're having a math problem or a biology problem right now. What's the third bathroom about? Are there a different, like, is there a different type of genitals that I don't really know about? Is there a different set of is there a different kind of like way to use the bathroom? Is there a bidet? Is there a bidet in the third toilet? Is that what the third bathroom is? They got a bidet. That's what's it. They got a bidet. That's what that is. Why would you need a third bathroom though? Carmen, I don't think that's what they're talking about though. I'm just confused. There's so much confusion. I don't know anything. What do I know?
Criticizing others behind their back. Your default is to weigh in and defend. You may not agree with the transgender community. You may not agree that corporations need to have a third bathroom. You may not believe in gender affirmation. But when you see a group being demonized, your default setting as a man is you move to protection.
But wait a minute. What if it's my group doing the demonizing though? What if it's like my boys laughing at like the transgender who is confused about the third bathroom? Because he doesn't even know what the third bathroom is for. He's scared of that room too. He doesn't want to walk in there and something bad happen to him. And now my homie's over there looking at him laughing. Am I supposed to now, I'm supposed to fight my homies because, you know, the transgender guy doesn't know what to do with the third bathroom? Like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Like, what are you really doing here? You trying to set me up for all kind of problems I don't really need to have.
We are providers, we're protectors, and we're procreators. There is nothing wrong with masculinity. It is a wonderful guidepost. Lean in. We just need to redefine.
Hold on. Since when did masculine providing and protecting get extended to the transgender community? Did you guys have a meeting without me? Did you guys like change the man code rules and then nobody sent me an email or nothing? Because I had no idea the whole protect and provide thing extended around. Like, I gotta put my arm around the transgender community. Like I got you, homie. Gonna let nothing happen to you. I might even marry you. You never know how this day might turn out. Like, is that the man code now? Y'all niggas had a meeting and nobody told me. Y'all let me sleep right through that, right? That's crazy. Y'all ain't even try to tell me. Nobody shot me an email. I ain't get a text or nothing. That's wild. Y'all niggas changed the rules without me.
We are providers, we're protectors, and we're procreators. There's nothing wrong with masculinity. It is a wonderful guidepost. Lean in. We just need to redefine what it means to be a man. You add surplus value. You create more tax revenue than you absorb. You protect people. Hold
on. I need you to understand, because see, Scott is like he's an economic guy too. He understands money and business allegedly. Now, when Scott tells you that men create surplus value, are you also telling me low key that women do not create surplus value? Because I don't think I'll ever hear anybody define womanhood as creating surplus value. No one really ever has that as a practical expectation for women, broadly speaking. But for men, it's like you need to produce. You need to produce more. You got to make enough for everybody. You know, you got to make enough for him, her, and the children, you know, because, you know, you can do that as a man. It's not necessarily that hard if once you get in the stride of it. But it sounds like I'm noticing a gender difference. Men are just required to overproduce, and women, not so much.
A wonderful guidepost. Lean in. We just need to redefine what it means to be a man. You add surplus value. You create more tax revenue than you absorb. You protect people.
Hey, Acadia, you know, that is a great question, you know, and it's because I'm a dude. I'm not smart enough to ask these questions. We needed a woman to really get to the heart of this issue. Why don't the transgenders get told to be a man and their job is protecting and providing? That is a great point. How come you're not aiming that at the transgender community? Because earlier in the show, he literally said, you know, you can be masculine or feminine, which I was confused by. I was legit confused by that. But it does seem like a big contradiction. If you're telling men that you have to provide, you have to protect, you have to overproduce, actually, how can I do all that and be transgender? Because once you become transgender, your life gets taken over with all kinds of different issues. You just don't have the time to do all the things Scott wants you to do.
You witness their lives. You register more complaints than you actually complain. And if you leave this earth having given more than you've taken, then you leave this world as a man. That is what it means to be a man.
I noticed in your description of manhood, you closed it off with death. In order to be a man, you got to die about this. Like, you got to put your life on the line. You need to jump in the grave. I don't think I'm ready to go, Scott. I am not ready to jump in the grave yet, bro. But you keep preaching though. You was doing something. You hit your stride just now. You made the girls happy. Look at the girls. They all happy and smiling. Oh, I like him. He bald and he's smart.
That was a rant.
But it was clear, you know, it was clear and succinct. And that's why I liked it, because it's not, you're not wondering what you mean. It's very clear. Here are the things that go into being a man. And they're not the things that people tell you. You don't have to be Popeye, you know, but you got to be present. You got to know you have to be able to reach out and talk to people. And I think, you know, a lot of this has to do with people not with her phone, but people don't connect. You know, we get questions here and we always say, I say, go to a bar.
Yeah.
Smell the people.
100%.
You know?
People.
Go to a bar and smell the people. I mean, obviously Whoopi doesn't know anything. You think Whoopi Goldberg actually goes out to bars? When's the last time she was at a bar? What, Cheers?
Haven't showered, get the hell out.
Let me, just so we can have a YouTube clip. I think young people should drink more.
I agree.
I don't see drunkenness, I see togetherness. I advise young people to get out of the house more, drink more, make a series of bad decisions that might pay off.
You literally advising young men to go out and get drunk and do something stupid? I'm glad my son has a father. I'm really, I am so glad my son has a father. He is advising young men to get out there, get drunk, and do something stupid. God. This is how you wind up in jail. This is literally how you wind up in the box on Saturday night, bro. You know, on Friday and Saturday night, a good 60%, maybe even up closer to 80% of those guys are in there because they got drunk and did something stupid involving a woman. That's the key thing. That is the key thing. Especially on the weekends, most of those guys are in there for something involving a woman. Dudes don't really get arrested for like selling drugs and shooting people like that. You know, police is out there. They're chasing down domestic violence and misgendering crimes. It's a whole other criminal world out there now.
When you're young,
and also, just to the point about masculine femininity, masculinity is not sequestered to people born as men. There are wonderful women who demonstrate wonderful masculinity.
Well, what's the point of me being a man if a woman can just do it? I mean, we just went through all of this man shaming and all the shit I got to do just to tell me that. And by the way, a woman can do these things too. Well, why don't you let her do it and I'll sit back and you shut the hell up? How about that? Carmen, why don't you go on up there and man up for me, boo? Scott told me you got this. White man said you got this, Carmen. Carmen, the white man told me that you was going to man up and take care of this thing for me. And I'm just going to sit back and let you do this thing for me.
You teach me all my life that the white man is the devil? What the hell is that? Come on, you teach me my whole life that the white man is the devil. Now you tell me it's all right for him to come among us.
Come on, I'm going to need you to man up. You gonna let me drive your car too?
Masculinity. My closest male friends are more feminine because I'm drawn to men who take care of me and are a little bit more nurturing.
Yeah. Whoa, Scott. What was that about, Scott? Hold on, Scott. And you said that proudly with your chest out in the air.
That nigga gay.
Born as men. There are wonderful women who demonstrate wonderful masculinity. My closest male friends are more feminine.
Why would you be drawn? Would you say drawn? What do you mean? What do you mean by drawn? Like a moth to a flame drawn? Like a I can't quit you type of drawn? What do you mean when you say drawn? Like you're just magnetically pulled? What does this even mean? JB says Scott cuddles with his niggas. Bro, what is going on at The View? And look at how they just smile. They just eat this whole thing up. Like, yeah. I can't believe this is what be on TV every day. This is why I don't watch TV no more, man. I just steal good content. Whatever movies I want to watch, I snatch them from the ether. I don't even sit down and watch the box TV no more because this is how they get you. This is what's on TV now. I can't do it. Scott is attracted to his feminine male friends because they take care of him. Well, how do they take care of you? Do they like rub your bald head? Do they sit on the couch and you lay your head on their lap and you talk about your problems?
Masculinity is not sequestered to people born as men. There are wonderful women who demonstrate wonderful masculinity. My closest male friends are more feminine because I'm drawn to men who take care of me and are a little bit more nurturing.
Yeah.
Scott, man, I feel like we learned things about you that we weren't supposed to learn tonight, Scott. You ain't wrong with the $5 super chat. That's what the 3 clams are for. Demolition Man, that's what the 3rd bathroom is. They got the 3 clams in the 3rd bathroom. I still don't know what the 3 clams are for, but that's what's in the 3rd bathroom, the 3 clams. All right, we're putting it together. We are putting things together tonight. We are solving mysteries. I didn't know. I really didn't know. But all right. This is why we got a gang. We got a team here. We got a whole team here solving things, putting our knowledge set together. Scott dropped that 3rd bathroom thing on me. I'm like, bro, what goes on in the 3rd bathroom? Who's allowed in the 3rd bathroom? I don't even know what the rules are for a 3rd bathroom, bro. This is a wild show tonight. I'm learning so many things I wish I really never, ever knew. But shout out to my man, You Ain't Wrong, with the $5 super chat. Appreciate you guys hanging in. We are almost done. We are almost through this. I'm thinking I got a little bit more I might want to cover, but I don't know. I haven't previewed it yet, but we'll see.
I need that money.
Shout out to You Ain't Wrong. Hit that like button for me, guys.
These are wonderful attributes. They're not sequestered to anyone born as a specific
That's an
gender.
important distinction that you're making.
But if you're born as one gender and you have an easier time leaning into these wonderful attributes, then embrace them. We've been celebrating femininity as we should. And we should do nothing to get in the way of the fact that women are doing really well. But let's also celebrate our young men and recognize.
Can we celebrate young women and young men at the same time for the exact same things? Because you're basically telling me that men can have feminine qualities and masculine qualities, and women can have feminine qualities and masculine qualities, and we should just both be androgynous together. Well, doesn't that just make us competitors? Doesn't that just put us head to head against one another? The female androgynous versus the male androgynous, like, isn't that just putting people on a collision course? Buy Scott's book so you can burn it.
Recognize that being risk aggressive, being a provider, being strong, wanting to be fit such you can protect and provide, those are wonderful things. Let's stop pathologizing it. Let's embrace femininity, but let's also, for God's sakes, embrace masculinity. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's cruelty, there's criminal behavior, there's abuse of power. But if you do any of those things, you are not masculine. That is anti-masculine. And the far right, just to be political, conflating masculinity with coarseness and cruelty, that could not be less masculine.
The far right is the only masculine party, though. And this is, again, you are just ruining the concepts for your own subversive, slavish purpose, right? Like, what's the point of modern liberal neo-masculinity if it's really indistinguishable from femininity? Yeah, Acadia, he's just trying to grease people up. That's all. He's just trying to grease up a dude. You know, because all of his best friends are greasy. He wants all the other guys to be greased up too. And I'm not trying to get greased up with him. I'm not going. I don't like all that greasy shit. That's how Diddy got locked up. I'm good. I'm not going with none of that stuff. All right, bonus content.
Voted for chaos and change. And this guy is so coarse, so unconventional, so kind of non-bullshit, quite frankly, that you saw people pivot hard from blue to red.
Okay, and now this is where I bring in the race stuff, right? Black women overwhelmingly voted for Vice President Harris. Whose sons in this country are doing the worst? Who's going from the school to prison pipeline? Who was disproportionately impacted by
Now, I haven't previewed this little clip, this conversation at all, but Scott's gonna get a little black. Scott is about to get black. Scott is hanging with the blacks, y'all. I didn't know Scott even had any black knowledge. I didn't know Scott had black friends. I don't know how this is going to turn out. Let's see. Let's just take a look briefly. I just want to watch this one segment really, because the rest of it's not really interesting.
Marijuana being illegal, who's disproportionately interrupted by the carceral state, whether it's being stop and frisk, it is black men in this country.
100%.
So why didn't black mothers do that? Because we care about our sons too. I know I care about my son.
Well, okay,
why
but-
didn't they make the same decision?
but-
And their sons are also,
But the
if they're not
data
in
you're
prison,
missing-
if they're not in prison, they're downstairs playing video games as well.
But the data you're missing is the following. Black women overwhelmingly voted for Vice President Harris.
Yeah.
But more of them voted for Trump than they did in 2020.
Oh yeah, I can tell you why that is.
Why's that?
Some of the immigration sentiment really
Right.
resonated.
Right.
Really resonated. And Tressie talks about it all the time, the idea of black jobs. A lot of people laughed at Trump when he said that thing about black jobs.
Notice that the spike in black women moving to Trump doesn't get anywhere near the shame that the black men moving toward Trump get. Black women vote for Trump. You see, I know why. You know, she lived next to the Mexicans. Of course she voted for Trump. But when black men vote for Trump, it's because you hate your mama.
But for a lot of black women, they're like, I know the jobs he's talking about, the
Yeah.
jobs that my brother used to do, and my uncle did, or my father did. So I think the immigration sentiment also spoke to them. And also VP Harris. Some black women weren't fans of
Yeah.
hers, and they didn't feel like they should have to vote for her
Yeah.
based on their identity. But
You know what? I just caught that. She like a Nigerian British woman. Why are you voting for Kamala? Why is a Nigerian British voting for Kamala? How'd you even get the paperwork going? See, this is why we gotta get the Democrats up out of here. They got everybody voting.
I kind of rub up against the idea that this cohort of white women voted because they're worried about their sons. I think perhaps they wanted to be protected under patriarchy, which is a very rational decision. And I don't,
Well,
I mean, I may have feelings about it, but they're probably siding with their husbands.
That's a strange phenomenon, and that is a lot of women will vote for what they perceive as best for their husbands and their sons.
Yeah.
But we all thought
A lot of women vote for what they perceive as best for their husbands and sons. Well, what happens if you're a block of women who have sons but not husbands? Because with a husband, he can like kind of forcefully, impose his will to some degree. So you know exactly what he wants and why. With a son, it's different. As the mom, you now try to impose your will on him. It's not really the same kind of representation.
at least I thought Roe v. Wade being overturned. Roe v. Wade's another example.
But these women can't have babies that shifted.
If-
Like they're not worried about getting an abortion. They're in menopause.
Fair enough. But I mean, I'll give you another interesting stat where Trump was really brilliant. I'm fascinated by how he won. We're on a podcast, right? Trump flew into the Manosphere, crypto, rockets, Joe Rogan. He flew right into the Manosphere. He said, I am worried about young men. I relate to young men. I am coarse, aggressive. This wasn't the women's referendum election. This was the testosterone election. And he flew right into the Manosphere. And quite frankly, it was brilliant. By him going on Rogan, 40 million video views, 15 million audio downloads, he got more attention in 90 minutes than Kamala. If Kamala Harris wanted the same level of attention and exposure, she would have had to have gone on MSNBC, CNN, and Fox every night for 3 hours for 2 weeks. She absolutely should have flown down to Austin. He saw the opportunity to appeal to struggling young men and the people concerned about them. And by the way, the struggles I talk about struggling young men a lot, they're even more acute for young men of color.
Yeah.
A boy is twice as likely to be suspended as a girl on a behavior-adjusted basis. Same exact infraction in school, a boy is twice as likely to be suspended. A black boy is 5 times as likely to be suspended. So we have an education system that is not only biased, in my opinion, again.
Yes, I think the education system is biased against boys, but I don't think that is uniquely the black boys' problem. I don't think the black boys are more violent or less literate because the education system is violent. I think there's a lot more personal problem going on with the black boys.
Against males. It's really biased against males. All these problems I talk about with men, whether it's suicide, opiate addiction, homelessness, it's especially acute among non-white men. But this is something going back to your question, when did this happen? I feel like America, and I'm an atheist, so I'm not suggesting that church is the answer, but as a nation becomes wealthy.
See, look, As soon as you type I don't trust this dude, he reveals his atheism.
Its reliance on a super being and church attendance goes down. But into that void fall, we still need answers. So we try and find idols. And the new Jesus Christ of our economy are technology innovators, tech billionaires, because this shit feels like magic. And these people create trillions in wealth. So we're fascinated by them. And I think where we came off the tracks is this idolatry of money. When I was a kid, my dad's boss had a slightly bigger house, but we all went to the same country club. We all went to the same school. Money buys you everything from better healthcare to better schools to a much broader selection set of mates. So we have.
I think you raise an interesting argument, but you didn't take it to an interesting place, right? The idolatry of money is an interesting argument. Here's the problem with the idolatry of money. As a matter of policy in all of Western nations, we made it a point to give women access to money in ways and at levels that they have never had before historically. And so when you talk about the idolatry of money, I think the more proper framing is women's access to money has shifted the landscape in a lot of ways, not just, socially or romantically, but, economically, politically. And so it's not really the idolatry of money in a pure, love money type of way, but the money does matter. True Hype with the $2 super chat. He says, culture has a compound effect, good or bad, black. Yeah, the culture thing is it's a Gordian knot for people to really try to untangle in criticisms of Black America, because how do you fix a culture? Like it sounds like a philosophical question, right? How do you fix a culture? Has it ever been done before?
Become obsessed, understandably, with money. The idolatry of the dollar and these tech innovators has gone berserk. And so the pursuit of the dollar, in my opinion, has crowded out almost all traditional character. When the wealthiest man in the world, and probably the most admired man in the world, is making Nazi salutes, we normalize that shit. Why? Because he's really fucking rich. Look what money has done to us.
Oh my God. Scott, you're upsetting my audience, Scott. You're just really making my audience start to question your early life history. Really, Scott?
Look what it's done. If you had a friend who was making Nazi salutes at parent-teachers conferences and was being sued by two women for sole custody of their kids, and you had heard from credible sources that they were addicted to ketamine, wouldn't you move in and say, hey, boss, something's wrong here? But not if you're rich, not if you can put a rocket into space or make a shit ton of money with EVs. Money has perverted us.
People don't like Elon because he's rich. People like Elon because he builds rocket ships and cool electric cars. I'm not even a fan of Tesla as a car. It's not that I don't like electric vehicles individually. It's just the technology represents your entry into the control grid. Like you can't be on it. You can't drive an electric vehicle without sitting around in a motorized computer that somebody can kill switch from 1,000 miles away. And this is only the beginning, right? But that's why he's rich. And we don't love him because he's rich. People don't like Elon because he's rich.
It has crowded out all sense of character, of decency, of what it means to be a real man. We have decided that you can get away with anything as long as you're rich. It's been a total, in my opinion, a lack of a moral failing. We used to admire cops. We used to admire people who had fidelity to their religion. We used to admire people who defended our country. We used to admire the sexiest man I remember thinking that I looked up to was my principal.
Scott. Scott. Is there something you'd like to tell us, Scott? Is there something you want to get off your chest, Scott?
That nigga gay, nigga gay, nigga gay, nigga gay, nigga gay, nigga gay.
Who had fidelity to their religion. We used to admire people who defended our country. We used to admire the sexiest man I remember thinking that I looked up to was my principal. He drove a 240Z. He smelled like Aqua Velva. He wore these cool coats with an elbow patch.
Oh my God, Scott, show me on the doll where your principal touched you. I bet you used to get in trouble on purpose, didn't you, Scott? Scott, you got in trouble for you wanted to get in trouble. I bet you went to one of them schools where they used to give out spankings and whatnot.
He can't get laid now. Do you think a vice principal has any game in any city?
I mean, vice principal is a good job. I think some of my friends would take one.
Damn, yo, Scott, did he really just, he basically said, back in my day, principals had game. Back in his day, principals knew how to mac. Oh my God, this is terrible. This is terrible YouTube male content, all right? This is not how you do male content for YouTube, all right? Scott, this is why none of the men want to vote for your people, Scott. He said the principal was glistening. Had the water just dripping all over his body. God, this guy, look at his face when he talks about the sexiest man alive, too. Like these visceral high school memories, right? He remembers this like I remember losing my virginity in high school. Like, Jesus Christ, Scott.
In my opinion, a lack of a moral failing. We used to admire cops. We used to admire people who had fidelity to their religion. We used to admire people who defended our country. We used to admire the sexiest man I remember thinking that I looked up to was my principal. He drove.
What boy looks up to a man for being sexy? Like, I never ever remember, not once in my life, watching a Van Damme movie or a Schwarzenegger or a Stallone, or you remember Action Jackson, man. Rest in peace to my dude. Rest in peace to Carl Withers, man. Action Jackson was like the first black action hero, and he really never got a good movie run. But Action Jackson was that dude. Action Jackson was the fucking man. He was the OG. He was the reason why Blade got a shot, all right? Shout out to Action Jackson. And not once did I ever look at Action Jackson and be like, I want to be sexy like him. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? What's going through your mind, Scott? What kind of man?
Had fidelity to their religion. We used to admire people who defended our country. We used to admire the sexiest man I remember thinking that I looked up to was my principal. He drove a 240Z. He smelled like Aqua Velva. He wore these cool coats with an elbow patch. He can't get laid now. Do you think a vice principal has any game in any city?
I mean, vice principal is a good job. I think some of my friends would take one.
Fair enough.
It's so funny how so many of the things you're speaking about tie into all the conversations we've been having on this season of the podcast. So you talk about the dismantling of a...
Bro, Dolomite was not an action hero, Trey. Come on, Trey. Dolomite gets his, he gets his spot in the Hall of Fame, but not for action. That was not real karate. Come on, Trey. Come on, man. That was not real kung fu, man.
The community. We talked to Robert Putnam and how you can directly correlate communities falling apart with distrust in the government and people now voting against their best interests. You talk about young men feeling isolated. We talked on the show about, you know, mass shooters and like the psychology behind it and like where these men are. You, Christiana, funny enough, you were the one who talked most about like the women voting for their sons. You kept on saying in the lead up to the election, you were like,
You have kids?
I have 3 kids.
You have 3 kids. How old are they?
I have a 5-year-old, I have a 19-month-old, and I have an 8-week-old.
Oh, you're in the middle.
I'm in the trenches.
Is she married or is she just, you know, doing her thing? I'm curious. You know, she's African. It's 50-50, but I don't know. I don't know. All women are women. You never know. You got to really ask questions.
A son and 2 daughters. And I said, as I say on the show, I want my son to turn out great. I want my daughters to have great options for husbands. So I am actually invested.
But that's what I mean. And you know, but Christiana kept on saying it. No joke. On the show, she kept on saying, I'm worried, guys, that these women are going to vote for their sons and it's not going to. And we were like, what do you mean? What do you. But
why is that bad, though? Why is it bad if women vote for their sons? Like, Mom, don't you love me? Don't you love me enough to vote Republican? We got to make that a campaign commercial. That's got to be a campaign commercial. Little innocent, blue-eyed, blonde-haired white boy. Make a black boy. You can make a black version too. Slightly different energy, same pitch though. Like, Mom, don't you love me enough to vote Republican? Definitely pitch it to the white moms first, man. I'm really suspicious about the black mom reaction. The black moms ain't really going. I don't know if you can get away with that with the black moms. Black moms take a lot more convincing. It's not as easy. Black moms are locked in.
I have black mother privilege. And I'm going to start breaking that down for y'all. Because there is a privilege for me as a black mother. I'm not going to have the same relationship. My sons adore me. My sons will put their life on the line in a New York minute over me. My sons will lose everything they have over me. Over me? It ain't happening. My sons will turn on their father over me. Over me? So when you ask me about my black sons, the relationship does not correlate the same to what I'm saying about black men.
I'm looking at all of these things that you're tying together, and maybe there's 2 aspects of it I'd love to try and figure out with the help of your brain. First of all, I love that you talked about Trump and the paradox that he contains, right? In that he is, at the same time as being someone who lies more than most human beings we've ever seen, he's also strangely authentic and no bullshit, right? It's a weird paradox. Do you think America, for the most...
How can he be an authentic liar? How is he a liar with authenticity? I think maybe the problem is you guys.
Part has done a good job of being no bullshit with its people and itself so that people make the right decision. I'll give you an example. Let's go back to Ukraine, and maybe we can even talk about it through the lens of COVID a little bit. I would argue most Americans, when they're told why America should invest in Ukraine, they're told it's because of morality. They're told we've got to help democracy. We've got to help countries stand tall.
All right, they're about to start talking really stupid. I think this is a good point to exit that particular conversation. Pretty much nothing I want to hear from them, apparently. Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait. I think I got one last segment. Advice for parents raising boys in modern society. All right, let's give this one more try because they was about to start talking stupid.
Yes is no, because you're going to realize that the people who are successful, who have romantic partners, who have economic success, had a shit ton of no's to get to that point of success. This is the scariest stat I've read. 51% of 18 to 24-year-old males have never asked a woman out in person. Think about that. They don't have the confidence or the skills to approach a woman and ask her out. That's it. The goal is the no, because you get enough no's, eventually you're going to get a yes. I can't tell you how much rejection I've endured from women. And the reason I am with a really high character, hot person is because I got comfortable with no.
I have a question, Scott.
Sure.
I love the recommendations.
Lots and 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 lots of no's. Lot of no's. So many no's he almost gave up. He didn't want to tell you about the times he was drunk and suicidal. He didn't want to tell you about the times he almost walked in front of a bus, right? So many no's. All the no's, man. And then finally a girl loved him. And now he's here to tell us how we're all retarded and stupid.
You've given to men. As a parent, there's
Yep.
parents at home listening to this, they're raising like preteen adolescents.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that they can do to kind of push their sons along the right track? Is it delaying giving them a smartphone? Is it putting them in clubs? Not all boys are athletic. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause I think
No, I'm laughing because my mom made me work at home.
Oh, so you had like
No,
chores.
to what you're saying, and I just laughed thinking
Yeah.
of it now because of what you asked and what you said. My mom, I think, intuitively sort of figured it out. I couldn't get a job at a Panera. South Africa was different in that way, but she made me work at home. So she went, there are tasks and things that we need done, and like some are physical,
Chores.
some
Yeah.
are
Did she
whatever
pay
it
you
might-
for
Yeah,
them?
but she paid
Okay.
me, and she was like, "This is your," and then she made me pay rent to live in the house. No, really, and she was like, "This is your portion of groceries,"
Even in South Africa, Black moms share a culture.
I have Black mother privilege. And I'm going to start breaking that down for y'all. Because there is a privilege for me as a Black mother. I'm not going to have the same relationship. My sons adore me. My sons will put their life on the line in a New York minute over me. My sons will lose everything they have over me. Over me? It ain't happening. My sons will turn on their father over me.
And it was this weird cycle, even though she was giving me them. And I remember asking her, I said, "This is ridiculous.
The money's going back
You're
and
giving me the
forth.
money that I'm then giving back to you to then have the thing." And she said, "Yes, honey, that's all money in the world." She said, "That's literally what it's going to be. Your company's going to give you the money that you're then going to buy their product with and give it back to them. And then you're going to give the government tax that they're going to then give you back with a road." She said, "That's how money works. I want you to get used to the reality of it." But I'm sorry, that it just made me think of that.
So I want to be clear. Do as I say, not as I do. I have not figured this out. I have kids. My kids have done really well, but
Oh, well, then you have figured something out.
well, but to be clear, they have at different parts of their life struggled with device addiction. You think if anyone would understand technology, it's me.
Yeah.
I have kids who sneak into the bathroom and are on TikTok, and I have to bang on the door and say, "Start."
Really? That's your I thought you were gonna say like heroin or something. I thought one of your kids was popping pills, and no. One of my kids is really, really strung out on TikTok. Oh my God. Stupid liberal problems. We really do have it like perhaps too good in a way. No, I don't think his kids have ever, blown a guy for a phone. It's like, can I use your TikTok? Just 30 minutes of TikTok. 30 minutes and I'll give you 30 minutes. Like, I don't think his kids have ever been that strung out. But these are like, Scott's got like poor little rich girl problems right now. But for a fact that us men, we're just dumb and stupid over here.
Masturbate and get off your phone. But look, the basics, right? I think the key for parents is what I think quality time was something invented by executives who weren't spending a lot of time with their kids. I think the key is garbage time. I'll always take my kids, drive them somewhere, because what I find the moments of real value and real emotional connection, unfortunately, happen totally randomly.
Yeah.
You can't force them or predict them. You're taking your kid to school and he says, I asked this girl out. I'm like, well, what happened? And he talks to you about it. Or I don't think there's any replacement for just a lot of time. And then what you were talking about, chores, I've done a terrible job with that. I think sports and fitness is really important for kids. I think kids, especially boys, are like dogs. A tired boy is a better behaved boy. I think they just need to sweat. And they need, I mean,
we're like dogs.
And I have boys, so I'm not as in touch with what girls need. And then the other thing that I've had trouble figuring out is letting them fail. My son was going to a party at the Westfield Mall. My kids are really into malls at 14. And it ends up there's 2 Westfields in London. And I got an Uber and I sent him to the wrong one.
So there's a Shepherd's
Yeah, I
Bush
sent him to the wrong side.
the Shepherd's Bush one, yeah.
So immediately, it's like his mom wants to call MI6. He's texting me, Dad, you're an idiot. His mom calling me, I can't believe you did this. And finally, I blew up and by accident did the right thing. I said to my kid, I'm like, you have an Uber app. You have Google Maps. You have an Oyster card. Figure it out.
You know, we're going to end this right here. I just realized something. You know, the liberals, the Democrats as a party and as a culture, they've undergone a really interesting identity shift over the last, 2 generations maybe. I guess when I was young, the Democrats were still seen as like the party of the poor and the working class and all that. And theoretically, because, they're pro welfare and social service programs and whatnot, they are allegedly still the kind of the party of the poor, but they're really the party of entrapping the poor if you really understand how the programs work in a person's life. And what that kind of amounts to is, if you really size up the playing field accurately today, the Democrats are the party of the wealthy. They are the party of the technocracy. Elon Musk notwithstanding, because he was on the Democrats team until, very recently. But Elon took, he took a lot of personal L's with the left-wing culture. He had to sacrifice his former son. I think he's got a transgender kid that they don't speak now, and that kind of thing might give you an axe to grind. But nonetheless, though, the left wing and the Democrats are no longer the party of the regular average guy. They are the party of like globalist interest and exotic niche social issues. And so they are just firmly out of touch. The idea that they're losing the average working class male vote, and especially the young male vote, like people are really afraid of the next couple of generations of male voters going further and further right wing. Like the kids are making Adolf TikTok edits now. They're putting his speeches with English translations and cool musical soundtracks. Like it's a vibe. It really is a vibe they got going on right now. And the Democrats just, one, they're afraid of it, which makes, true Congress, true engagement nearly impossible. Like, how do you truly engage with something that you're deeply afraid of? Like that deep fear, it prevents the Democrats from engaging honestly and accurately. And then also, you should be afraid because you made it very clear that you actually hate these men, these boys, and everything that they would love, everything that they would love, should love, and have loved. You made it clear that you hate all of these things, and you've been on a mission to destroy these things. When the Democrats talk about reimagining things, it almost always puts straight white male interest at the front of the line. The straight white male interest is almost always in the crosshair when the Democrats want to reimagine some part of the culture. And here's a kicker, and this is the thing, this is where I come in. as a straight black male, I recognize the implicit threat, because once if the straight white male is seen as the top of the mountain, like, you got to take out the boss, you want to go for the boss battle, first, right? And if they go out and take the boss battle out, where does that leave the black male? And so I got to side with, my natural team. I have to side with my natural tribe, which is straight men. And so we're all locked in this hell together. But I think I did enough rambling for one night. Shout out to everybody in the audience. Thank you to everybody who's donated to the show tonight. We had an interesting night. We got a new church member. We got a couple of new church members. Shout out to all the new church members. I'm gonna work on some more content. That's really what I've been trying to do lately, is crank up the content level. Not only live streams, but if you notice, I dropped an actual edited video earlier today, and I've been saying I want to get more into the regular edited content, because that's really the algorithm kicker right there. That's really how you lock yourself into the algorithm, with just good, solid, pre-edited videos. And I'm going to keep working on that, and I'm going to deliver you guys some exclusive content, and we're going to go over to Rumble and do some Rumble things too. But that being said, you guys have a great night. I got to get up out of here. I am tired and hungry, and I got to go. Thank you all for watching. Have a good night. Hit that like button on your way out, and I will catch you guys on the next one.
Aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help black people.
It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done.